Muy buenos días. Les damos la bienvenida a esta tercera y última jornada de Innovación 2050, un encuentro internacional que busca promover, discutir e instalar capacidades en torno a megatendencias que están transformando el mundo. Esta es una iniciativa del Centro de Innovación UC en alianza con Eurochile y Triciclos. Agradecemos también a nuestros media partners Radio Bio Bio, El Mostrador y El Diario Financiero. Les comentamos que estamos transmitiendo a través de Welcu Live y YouTube Live, y pueden compartir sus comentarios sobre este evento a través de nuestras redes sociales con el hashtag Innovación 2050. Para dar inicio a esta tercera jornada, damos la bienvenida a Ladeja Godina, presidenta del Grupo de Coordinación de la Plataforma de Actores Europeos de Economía Circular y fundadora y CEO de Circular Change. Ladeja forma parte de las 23 mujeres del futuro, distinguidas por la Unión Europea por su aporte en ciencia, investigación e innovación. Así que para nosotros es un honor contar con ella. Sin más que agregar, los dejo con su presentación. Ladeja, thank you so much for being here with us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here, for inviting me. I'm really privileged to be today with you. So I'm looking forward for this, let's say, joint adventure today. Hopefully, it will be a kind of inspiration more than just a presentation. So the purpose of my speech is really to open the space to think about the present and to imagine the future. Despite the fact that we are living in very challenging times, there is still hope and there is space for co-creation and for innovation. So thank you very much for having me here, and I will just give you a few thoughts, and afterwards, of course, we can discuss and return to that, what will trigger you most. So please, can you start my presentation? Okay. So I would like to start with the quote that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. This is a quote by the famous philosopher Kierkegaard, and I use it because just nowadays we are thinking about that, oh, how nice it used to be, and at the same time we are now creating the future and co-creating the future in which we and our kids are hopefully going to live. So please go on. While thinking this future, the invitation came by your organization, and I see it as another sign of synchronicity. Because your organization on one side and our Circular Change, we are both sharing the mission to connect the right dots. So to really empower and encourage those who are willing to contribute to the better future. And I was very pleased when I saw how impactful your organization is, that within your innovation center, you have so many bright minds, and you managed to find funds to invest into innovation. And of course, you already created a lot of impactful projects. So first of all, congratulations to the whole team behind and to everyone who is contributing to this really important story. Next, please. Let's see, yes, what our story today is going to be. So I am very much in the storytelling, because I believe that particularly now in times when we cannot come together and touch and hug and feel each other, at least we can share stories. So through stories we learn, through stories we bring knowledge from one generation to another. So I will really try to make this a kind of a storytelling format. I will touch 5 points. First, how to be innovative when we are scared to death. The second, how to imagine. So how to do these foresight exercises like this one for 2050 and beyond. And exactly this is the topic of your event. The third relates to circular economy, that I see like the playground for the systemic change. The fourth is about orchestrating innovation, what is needed really to be innovative and what kind of leadership can support this spirit. And the last thing is always key takeaways. I will try to wrap it up at the end, but it's up to you to take the messages that you will find relevant for you during our let's say, time spent together. Please, the next one. So starting with that, how to be innovative when we are scared to death. Next slide, please. So today we are faced with facts that are not encouraging. Every day the media is bombarding us with the numbers. How many people died? How many people got sick? What is COVID bringing to different countries? What kind of measures have been taken? So it is really something what does not make us feel comfortable. We feel scared, as I said. We feel isolated. We feel lonely, very much or very often also confused. Sometimes we are even accusing others because the situation like that is happening to us, and so on and so on. So within this situation now, we have to be actually creative and innovative, what is not an easy task. And what we are putting now, what is a positive side of the message is that we are really putting health before wealth. So putting health before wealth means that we are also focusing on the solutions that might not be very profitable short term, but can bring very positive results long term. And this is very much aligned with the message of the whole sustainability and the development that is based on the principles of circular economy. Next, please. So in this situation, things have changed also from the perspective of Maslow. Probably you are familiar with his hierarchy pyramid. And it is interesting how things have changed if we look to this pyramid from the perspective of, I wouldn't say post-pandemic situation, because we are still in this pandemic situation, and most likely we will have to embrace it in a way and live with it. And if we think about that, what all of a sudden became the most essential for us, it was not something what was before, so what is on the top of this pyramid. It was not about how to fulfill ourselves, how to find our mission in life, how to live our purpose, but it was very basic. So where am I going to sleep? What am I going to eat? Who am I going to meet? And so on. So very basic needs came out. And the same for the environment in which we are working. So it refers very much to our work, to our working space, because before we took everything for granted, most of the things, I wouldn't say everything, but it was normal that we go every morning to the office so that the computer is there, our friends are there, we're drinking coffee, chatting around, then there are projects coming in, we are working on the projects and so on and so on. Now, all of a sudden, this has changed. And also regarding our position within the whole system, we as humans who are contributing to this creativity, innovation, and everything related to imagining this future, we are in a very different situation. Like now, I'm sitting here in Slovenia, the only country with love in its name, and you are sitting in Chile or elsewhere around the globe, and we are sharing these thoughts, and we are at the very same moment thinking about something what we would do together in one place, most likely in Chile, a year ago. So things are changing, and the priorities are changing very much. So the next one, please. Based on that, on this change, the situation and the cases that are showing us how the whole environment and the business environment, as well as our daily habits, are changing. We have proofs already. I choose, because I said that I will base everything very much on the story, I choose 3 examples. The first one is what popped out in Slovenia, but elsewhere as well. So all of a sudden, after the COVID or within the COVID, we realized how dependent we are on the import of the food, of the vegetables and fruits and other foods. So the local community started, and the local farmers started to promote their products much more than they used to before. And we, users and consumers, became much more responsive. So a lot of platforms, digital platforms, popped out up, and we started to order these fruits and vegetables from local farmers. Something what was there before as well, but we preferred to go to the supermarket and buy imported ingredients. But now we realized how blessed actually we are and privileged that we can buy the food for the local farmers. So this is something what is very much related to this first need. What am I going to eat and from whom am I going to buy the food? So our relation toward food has changed. The second example is also from Slovenia, and it is that the company Valtex, they're collecting, the previous slide, please, yes, they're collecting Tetra Paks, so where the milk is packed and the other drink, soft drinks and so on, and they're producing toilet paper and other hygienic paper by recycling Tetra Paks. So you remember the whole story around toilet paper at the very beginning of the COVID. And this is one nice example how now the toilet paper is produced from something what used to be waste. And the third one I like very much. This is a colleague of mine who lives in Silicon Valley and is the owner of one of the big accelerators there. But he's from India and he moved back home during the lockdown. And here you can see him how he is visiting the hairdresser. So very essential need to cut the hair is now done in the nature with all the prevention that is needed. So I just wanted to show you how things in our daily life are changing and how very much these cases are related to our basic needs. The next one, please. So moving from that, how we resonate with the needs and with the values, of course, we are moving now to the second important pillar of this presentation, and it is about how to imagine life. So a kind of foresight exercises are taking place to really imagine the life, not only tomorrow, but let's say many years ahead of us. Next, please. So we are not the first one who is trying to imagine. I believe that you all know John Lennon, who was singing "Imagine all the people living life in peace" many years ago. And I see this crisis also as an opportunity to rethink what his message was back then and to consider the future where really we can all live in peace and where we can all live a decent life. So for achieving that, innovation is absolutely needed. And we can, and there is another quote here saying that innovation is nothing else than imagine the future and fill in the gaps. So we really need this capability to imagine things out of the box, not just to repeat something, but to think out of the box and then to fill those gaps with new solutions. Next, please. When imagining things, here in Europe, we have a privilege, again, to have a very good compass for imagining the future that is called the New Green Deal. So if I take a quote of our EU Commissioner, the President of EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, she said that it is the Europe that I believe can emerge from this crisis. One that does everything it can to protect lives and livelihoods. One that is open to the world but can take care of itself. One that is more resilient, green and digital, and that invests in the future together. So here, I think that this message is very strong because on one side, it is giving us the responsibility to behave in a way that we are capable of taking care of ourselves. But at the same time, it is opening the space for the collaboration and co-creation because we are so interdependent and interconnected all around the globe that Europe alone cannot come through this crisis without the collaboration and engagement of the others. And of course, we have the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals that resonates very much with this new Green Deal. And I like to say that it was somehow visionary because everything has been written before COVID. If you go now through the SDGs, if you read carefully the Green Deal as well as the Circular Economy Action Plan, these are a kind of guidelines or cookbooks for that, how to keep on going and what to bring into the practice to survive and to not just to overcome this COVID crisis, but even more important, to overcome the climate crisis. So next slide, please. Based on that, what we have in Green Deal, we have a challenge ahead of us. And this challenge, from my perspective, is whether we will be wise enough to invest not only financial resources, but also other resources like human resources, natural resources, into something what will bring us prosperity. As you know, now in Europe, a lot of money has been allocated as a recovery budget or a recovery funds. And most of them, you can see on this slide, will be invested in the green sustainable solutions. So back to what I said before, without having the capability now to use the knowledge we have, to use the data we have, to use all the reports we have written in the past, but really to think now based on that, out of the box, to open our minds, to shift our mindset, and really to think in an innovative way. Without that, the money cannot be well invested, because it will not be invested into something new, into something what we need to overcome the patterns that brought us to the situation in which we are. So now is the momentum really to do these foresight exercises, to base on the knowledge, as I said, but to really think for the future. Next, please. So we have one great model, and this is Kate Rockford. She wrote a book, Donut Economics, and what is even more important now, her model is implemented on different levels. The principle of this model is that we have to do everything within the planetary boundaries. So resources are limited, and we cannot behave like there are no limits. But it does not mean that we cannot live a quality life within these boundaries. And here I'm coming back to what I said just before. By rethinking what we have, how we behave, how we organize our businesses, how the value chains are connected, how the whole system works, to rethink all that, by doing so, we can really come to the solutions that are sustainable and that can bring us forward. And for example, the city of Amsterdam is working on this model right now to find a kind of the scenario for recovery of the Amsterdam. So it is something what is very applicable, and I'm encouraging everyone to read the book and to get inspired by the thoughts that and the models that are introduced. Next, please. Because it is always important to say where we can do something or where we can contribute, I choose the second story here before I explain a little bit what is going on. And here is another example of an activity of the project that is called BioEast. And I'm chairing the group of great experts, and we are jointly working on this foresight exercise for 2050. To really support the member states here in, let's say, eastern part of Europe, central and eastern part, to find the new scenarios for developing bioeconomy and circular economy in the future. So that is exactly what you are most likely working on within different contexts. I'm working with the Eurochile as well on the one scenario that is called Circular Economy National Roadmap for Chile. And these exercises are very much needed, exactly for what I said before, to first map everything what we have, to have an insight into the stakeholders that are active on the ground, and then to bridge bottom-up and top-down approach and really co-create the solutions that can lead us to this prosperous future. Next, please. So we are entering now into the third chapter, what this circular economy is actually about. So I like to call it the playground for systemic change. And let's see the model that has been already introduced for sure by Joss from Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And you're familiar with this butterfly that became an icon of circular economy system. So to say in a nutshell what the circular economy is about, I like to say that it is about maintaining value for as long as possible. So in the production cycle as well as when we use things. So in consumption cycle as well. But it is important as well that we design everything what we produce in a way that we can maintain this value, so that the things are designed very clever, so that we can repair them, refurbish them, and then at the very end recycle. So not to take and throw it away like it used to be in a linear principle, but really to maintain them for as long as possible. On the other hand, we have the whole biosphere. And as I said before, the foresight exercise on which we are working is dealing exactly with this part as well. How also to treat the whole biosphere and all natural resources in a way that we are not destroying them, but that we are closing the loops and really taking care of that the biodiversity is not affected as much as we can, of course, and that we are closing the loops on that side as well. So the model of butterfly is showing us the whole system and how the circular economy can actually contribute to that we use less and, of course, that we produce less waste. But the main mantra here is less production and less consumption. And it is aligned with SDG number 12 as well. So again, I would like to say it does not mean that we do not live quality life. It just means that we produce things differently and take care of those things in a different manner. Next, please. When talking about circular economy, I like to say also that it is not something new, you know, particularly if you look a generation or two generations back, like my grandmother, for example, she lived a perfect circular life, very sustainable. She took care of everything and she didn't waste anything. So this is something what also the farmers understand very well, because when they give their property to, let's say, to the son or the daughter, they always say, take care of this property and maintain the value and keep it at least as good and valuable as it is now. So we should do the same with our planet, to maintain it at least in the condition as we got it. So to do that, it is very important that we manage everything in a very systemic way, so that we understand this interdependency of actions of all, not only activities, but also of areas like how mobility is interconnected with the food production, or how tourism is interconnected with mobility, and so on and so on. So there is another nice, let's call it a kind of compass for collective leadership. I will not go into the details. That is Professor Petra Kunkel from Club of Rome who created it, and it is guiding us through that, what is needed really to navigate and to orchestrate all different areas in a way that we assure sustainability. So for every leader, it is a very good tool. Next slide, please. Another thing that I find interesting and relevant is this kind of pyramid introduced by a Finnish company, the hub concepts. And when we are talking about innovation, it is very important where are the anchors of this innovation. And in this scheme, you can see that there are different, let's say, pillars that are in this pyramid. And we have to find out how the innovation is driven in our country or in our ecosystem. Because I mentioned before the Indian guy from Silicon Valley, for example, in the United States, the anchors of innovations are absolutely in private business sector and in private capital. while let's say in our countries here in Europe, it is much more public-private partnership, and it is much more related to the universities and so on. So it is important to find out where the anchors for innovation are, and then orchestrate them with others so that we can really move forward and engage all the stakeholders that are needed in this process. Next slide, please. Here we are coming to the Circular Economy Action Plan. So I would just like to say, as I mentioned before, that it is a very valuable document, and I like to call it a cookbook, because within this document you can find a lot of guidelines for that, how to move in the circular direction. So it relates to the specific sectors where you can implement change. It relates to the change of business models. It relates to the finances that are available. And what is also important, it relates to the human capital as well, because I think this is the major part here. Innovation as such cannot happen without the human brains and without our interventions and our collaborations. So I strongly recommend you also to take a look at Circular Economy Action Plan and find some inspiration in that as well. Next, please. Okay. Yeah. So while we are in Europe and circular economy, of course, I would like to invite you also to follow us, and not only follow us within the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, but also contribute. So this platform wants to be really the network of networks. And as a chair, I'm encouraging everyone wherever I can to contribute, not only to take a look at the platform on the web, but also to send the invitations for the events, to share the voice of the projects you are working on. And if you take a look, now Chile is already presented because exactly of our collaboration, and events are regularly published. So feel free to visit the site and to contribute your cases, and also to find the partners for the projects on which you are working on. So that is something very valuable, and I hope and believe that this platform will grow in the future. Next, please. Another great organization is Sitra from Finland. Some of you might be familiar with them because they did great stuff in innovation. They have the innovation fund that is 60 years old. This is Sitra, actually. And they have great playbook also for circular economy business models. But here I choose another thing, and this is a kind of iceberg, showing how important it is to think about values, behavior, and mindset when thinking about the solutions. So next slide, please. Why I'm referring to that is also that while we have been working on the national roadmap for circular economy in Slovenia, we introduced, before Sitra introduced their model, we introduced our circular triangle, emphasizing exactly that circular culture is of crucial importance when managing circular economy and when contributing to the circular change. Because without having all three angles covered, so without circular culture, circular economy models cannot be implemented and circular change cannot happen. So everything is interconnected. This is the third story, and now we are moving to the fourth one, please. This is about orchestrating the innovation and about the mindset that is needed nowadays. So please, the next one. It starts with, I would say, my role model. I really admire the Prime Minister of the New Zealand. And what she's saying in her quotes often is that she was faced with this kind of, not the barrier, but really the comments that you cannot be empathetic and strong at the same time. But what she's doing is she's proving that exactly this is the formula that we need nowadays. Because we need this open mind, but we also need open heart. And without this combination, things cannot move forward. And when talking about innovation, when talking about creating this new reality, we really need this feeling that we are seen, that we are heard, that we are engaged into this co-creation. We do need authorities that are including us. So we don't need someone who is telling us what to do, but we need the orchestrators of the dialogue, and then we can co-create so much needed solutions. So understanding the systems, empowering people, maintaining value, closing the loops wherever possible, looking for opportunities for collaboration and co-creation in the search of innovative systemic solutions. That is what is under this umbrella of leadership, as I understand it, and as leaders, as this one are proving that is possible to move forward. Next, please. I would like to stress another important aspect, because when talking about innovation, we quite often confuse creativity, invention, and innovation. This is not the same thing. And sometimes creativity is enough, the other time invention is something what is good enough, but innovation is something what is then also very new, but also proved on the market. And I just picked 3 examples. If we go on, please, with the slides showing that it is great in the context of circular economy if we are only creative. Like the first example showing us how the creatives are using the materials and then recycling, not recycling them, but reusing them for producing products like this backpack or other bags or something. So this is something what is very creative, but it's not innovative. On the other hand, we have example of Philips that is now selling lighting instead of bulbs, meaning that they're offering service instead of product. This is something what is very inventive. And you can see how they did that in Schiphol Airport in the Netherlands, for example. And the third example is about innovation. So this is Aquafil company with the new innovative material Econil that is produced, the nylon that is produced from fishing nets and other waste material. So this is innovation. I just wanted to stress it because sometimes we mix innovation, invention, and just creative solutions. So everything is important, but not everything is innovation. Next, please. Here is another, let's say, role model, Van Houten, the CEO from Philips. And years ago, he wrote this kind of manifesto about circular economy and this shift. And as you can see, he's proving that in practice, like I just introduced the example of moving from products to services in the lighting. And here he said that when we will take a look back and see what circular economy actually brought, that we will see that this was a kind of revolution. Next, please. And why I mentioned before the Citra and the business models that they're introducing, not they're introducing, but they explain them very much, very nicely in a playbook that you can find online. So another source of not only inspiration, but very good tool to think about your business models. And here you can see how different options are available for the transition from linear to circular business models. So take a look and you will see that sometimes it is about moving from products to services. Sometimes it is just about maintaining something for a longer time, so to repair it. Sometimes it is how to adjust your value chain. So different options. And at whatever point you stand or in whichever industry or area you are operating, there is always an opportunity to become more circular. So there is no excuse, whether you're working at school or if you are the owner of the mining, you can become more circular. Just explore it. Next, please. So to now conclude with that, with the last story in a way, I mentioned before Mr. Van Houten from Philips, and I was privileged enough to meet him also in Davos when we were both nominated for the Leadership Award, the Circulars. and he was the winner. I was only the finalist, but of course he deserves everything and even more. But why I pointed it out, and another award that was mentioned at the beginning as well, now I have been listed as one of 23 women of the future. Why I think this kind of awards are important, not because of acknowledging us or giving us a certain mark or whatever, but because of the opportunity we get through that. Before, there was also opportunity to meet in person, like I met a lot of people in Davos during the ceremony, and we came in contact and started to collaborate. But even now, it gives us the opportunity to spread the voice and to include others, because what we achieved because of the others and with the help of the others. And I really feel that now I'm here to help others as well to flourish and to find their purpose and to live their purpose. So next one, please. Just in a nutshell, to conclude this presentation, just to tell you a little bit about who am I. So I have been introduced at the very beginning, but I'm a woman with several hats, working on several areas, but they're all connected with circular economy. So collaborating with different associations, chairing the platform in Brussels, organizing also the International Conference on Circular Economy in Slovenia, now for the 5th time already online, collaborating with Japan and the Shisha University, being a part of the circular hotspot of Holland, and so on and so on. So what I'm trying to do with my work is really, and with our platform Circular Change, is to be the best entry point for your circular journey. We don't have all the knowledge, but we have a lot of connections. So whoever needs to be connected and encouraged is more than welcome. The next one, please. So to conclude our journey, here are some takeaways, but as I said, you should make your list. What I tried to deliver through this inspirational talk is that you think about that, what you can focus on now in this situation. So to focus on what we can do with what we have, and to overcome this frightening situation by doing so. The second message would be about imagining. So we do not have all the answers, but we do have each other. So together, collectively, we can imagine our future. About the circular economy, we can jointly really contribute to the system change. And we have the tools, we have the knowledge, and we have the data. Everything is here, but let's do it together. About orchestrating innovation, this is my quote that was given during the nomination for this Woman of the Future. So playfully co-create a network that attracts people ready to contribute to a meaningful world, encouraging them to collaborate and realize their purpose. So that is how I see this orchestration and the leadership of the future. And of course, I wish you all to live your purpose and to contribute to what the future should look like, because we are the people we have been waiting for. Thank you very much. Here I'm concluding with my talk. I hope that you got inspired and that now we will live forward. Thank you very much, and looking forward for questions and other replies.
Thank you, Ladeja, for the presentation. It definitely is of vital importance to address the challenges that you've laid out. We would like to ask you, as you said, more about the inspiring topics that you covered during your keynote, specifically regarding systemic change, leadership, and of course, purpose. In our globalized and interconnected world, what should the primary lines of action be in order to create more resilient societies? And what can we do to promote shared values and a vision for common well-being?
Yeah. So from my personal perspective, I would say, I think that it is important that we understand that everyone counts. So whether we are on the side of the government, it is great, and we have power and we have responsibility. And on the other hand, there are other organizations. If we are in business, we have, again, power and financial funds and so on. So we need each other. So for this systemic change, it is of great importance that we have this respect towards each other. And even if we do not agree on everything, to accept this as something completely normal, because we are different. Luckily we are, and we should be proud of that we are different, but to find the consensus and the common purpose and the common goal. And then really to nourish this dialogue and to really work, even now remotely as we do, in that to co-create these solutions and really to understand that whatever we decide on, it affects the others as other people or other nations or other organizations. So this is the systemic thinking, not to live in your silos or in your bubble, thinking that you have achieved everything and fixed everything because you fixed your little bubble, but really to understand that the whole system has to be somehow reconnected in a new way. So not to throw away everything and destroy, but really to find new connections between all the parts of the system.
Absolutely. Now, we've seen that countries led by women have stood out because of their crisis management during the pandemic. Why do you think female leadership has stood out in this context of uncertainty?
Yeah, I would say that it is the female principle, because I love men very much. And I think, again, that we should coexist and the balance is very important. And both principles are important, the female and the male. But what happened in the crisis, and it is, I guess that it used to be like that always, that this female principle is based more on the empathy, more on caring, more on nourishing this dialogue, and more on engaging. And those female leaders today manage to do exactly that, to talk to each other, to respect each other, and to find the compromise that leads all of us toward, I believe, the prosperous future. And it happened also in Europe. If we take a look, the three ladies actually managed to put together the recovery plan. So this is something what is important. And as I said, it is showing us that we have capabilities and that we are completely capable to lead countries or systems in a different way, but we need that male principle as well. So let's not go in one direction, but let's live in a balanced society. I think that this would be very wise for the future.
Right. How can we create an institutional leadership based on industry, government, and citizen collaboration in order to successfully implement a circular economy?
I must say that this is often a problem, also in my own country, Slovenia, because we are not used to work together in a completely new way. You know, that we have a lot of bureaucracy, we have a lot of rules and everything, but what we need now is this flexibility and less bureaucracy. So here are two aspects that I see as of crucial importance. One is transparency, and the other is trust. So now, how to put these stakeholders together based on this common trust and to make actions as transparent as possible. So this is the direction in which I would go. So then we go with measurements and everything, but essentially these two words.
Trust, for sure. And with that, I would like to thank you again, Ladeja, for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you very much. Wishing you all the best and looking forward to meeting you in person, hopefully. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Luego de esta gran presentación, los invitamos a acompañarnos en el conversatorio de Economía Circular para la Reactivación Sostenible. No olviden de participar en la conversación a través de nuestras redes sociales utilizando el hashtag Innovación 2050.